Ready for the easiest stage here, Oaks? They filled out a form, so clearly they're a hand raiser, and it's time to talk to sales. Right? Done. Like we've done our job.
Yeah, wrap it up. Deal closed, right? What else is there to do? Check to see if we're on track for our bonus based on the metrics.
I mean, in
Which,
marketing, like that, I got you. I got you guys the hand raisers. So
yeah,
yeah, ship the bonus.
yes, um, yeah. The which form did they fill out? Out of
Oh,
curiosity.
the contact us form,
Oh,
right?
contact us. Right. Yeah. Definitely. And was it like Outlook.com email address or was it an actual person?
Oh, that's like sales is they're
Oh,
gonna figure
sure.
that out when they
Um,
call.
and the like free text, what would you like us to contact about? Did they put anything in that box?
Oh,
Or did we
um,
change that to a drop down and it's like, I'm ready to buy, I have a question, I want to apply for a job? I don't remember what we did on the contact us form.
well, they heard about us through Google,
Oh,
so there's
oh,
that.
yeah, so that's good. So we can attribute that to our organic search SEM activities. Yeah, the it's a good question. What happens then? And that SOP that you described there, that you and I have both seen over and over and over, both working with companies on the customer acquisition side of fill out a form, maybe you run the email through a validator and send an email to them, thank you email to the prospect, and then generate a lead uh, or maybe a deal when the contact record is created in your CRM. Um, we've seen that implemented all kinds of ways with companies. We've also been on the other side of that with companies where they don't understand the buying process when viewed from their prospective customers' perspective. Um, and that's why in uh, the value path, we make a distinction between hand raiser and buyer because they are distinct modes of operation. And I guess maybe if the best you can think of is, uh, well, if the only team around here who has uh, an incentive and a mandate to talk to people who aren't customers yet is sales, then yeah, you probably would if they fill out a form. Um, that is your only way to let them get in touch with you, then maybe you should send them to sales. But it certainly doesn't take into account how people go about researching or moving from researching to buying or needing to produce value, which is some later phases that we'll talk about. And it does not signal that a company has done a lot of work understanding that experience for their customers to help differentiate when somebody is saying like, hey, I need help figuring this out, right? And we want to assume there's a natural progression from, hey, help me figure this out, to I'm ready to buy. We want to leave that door open. But I would say we've done historically a bad job at recognizing that between research and taking action, whether that's an actual purchase um, or a pre-purchase value creation, that there is something that happens there for maybe not every customer, but for some segments of customers that's different than, oh, I'm ready to talk to sales, right?
Yeah. Um, and it's interesting. Like I ended up changing the identity statement of this stage at some point. Um, at the same time, when I changed like hero to buyer, because it was I am buying, right? Um, because it's always hard not to try and serve sales a little bit. So trying to mess with their stages and their processes, and it's like, yeah, if somebody um, is actively interested in talking to somebody about something and they make a direct request, we want them. We 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 would like them to be in the 3% of the market that's buying, right? And often they are, right? But when you say it like that, I am buying, like, okay, I'm selling. So I'm gonna
Right.
yeah, it makes sense. There's a fit here. Let's have a meeting.
Yeah.
But um, often they are just looking for help, right? And sometimes that salesperson can be the help, but oftentimes it is not. And what I'm reminded of, and what I'm learning so much now, I never would have like thank you, Casey Hawkins, for introducing me to the world of scoring in a way I never imagined. Because now that I'm digging deeper into this, like one of the inherent outcomes of scoring is trying to create hand raisers based on indirect behavior, inferred assumptions, all these things. And I didn't experience that because I was in a world in manufacturing where there's usually just wasn't enough leads to need to score, which meant they all went to sales. No matter where they came into the system, often sales was the one responsible for bringing them in at events and stuff. But because of that, in a highly technical, like material science space, the application scientist is almost always going to be involved in the sales process. And very often, the sales person would be the processor so that I'm asking for help with a specific application. And the salesperson is very unlikely to be able to help me in that first interaction. But they will always take the first interaction and then hand off to the application scientist. And what we're suggesting here is there's so much opportunity to know that they want to talk to the application scientist at that point, and creating a structure where everything runs through sales is really not the buying experience that people want, right? So understanding, like, when they say I need help, I guess the next question is with what?
Exactly. And there's lots of examples, um, of this kind of challenge. Oftentimes, I don't know if it's the circles we run in, but there's so much kind of legacy enterprise B2B sales gravity in the market, right? So the contact MQL SQL opportunity slash deal closed one process, and marketing gets people warmed up until they raise their hand by submitting a form, and then sales talks to them. Seems like it's you really are like swimming upstream if your sales process doesn't inherently work that way, which is not actually a thing, right? Like every sales process is made up, but the assumption is just like, well, that's how a sales process works. There are a lot of others, like the one that you illustrated, that that can be kind of attached to aspects of that framework and run, but like I would argue we invented BDRs and SDRs as a distinct role in discipline because that process wasn't working, and we were trying to figure out like, well, who owns that? Sometimes SDRs are in marketing, sometimes SDRs are in sales, but we know like there's something between that, and a lot of times it becomes their job to qualify or disqualify, and disqualify usually means we close out the lead, but what it probably means is they're actually hand raisers and just not ready to buy. trying to solve that problem. I work with companies in the franchise space, and they there is a distinction that is really critical there, similar to the one that you just illustrated, which is there's a lot of people who, in if we use hand raiser kind of in the old school definition of submitted a form, who are saying, I want to learn more about this, but franchises don't want to just close every single person who is interested in opening a franchise. They have like a lot of criteria that are sort of scoring and are really like filtration characteristics. And so they need to, when somebody says like, I'm curious, I want to talk, like I would like help. That conversation is like very much a mutual fit learning experience. And most of those are not things that you can get somebody's willing to submit in a form. And we won't go into it, but it's just like, they are assessing alignment, excitement,
Right.
background, like all of these things that you get by being human, connecting and talking to somebody, and then maybe later collecting some actual measurable, scoreable characteristics.
Right. Well,
But
that's usually the first
yeah,
step, right? Is like, okay, we're not thinking about the whole experience. We have a contact us form. We need to know more about the person. So here's 20 more fields
right.
we're going to ask them to fill out. So now we'll know what they want help with. And, right, like what I'm understanding in these scoring scenarios is that, and even unified customer views, like, because this is really hard to do if the teams can't work together,
Yeah.
right? There's so much opportunity to say this behavior is happening. It's clearly not ready for the sales conversation yet, but there's probably some other marketing stuff we could be doing to help them get ready and to help them have a chance to tell us what they need help with just by the journey that they're taking on the way.
Right. For sure, that is an aspect of this. The one of the reasons the old way of thinking about this falls down is it is largely rooted in time. I mean, I guess like every time is, where you have certain tools at your disposal. Did they visit the website? Did they submit a form? Did they email us? Did they click to call? Did they, whatever, free trial, request a demo? And the assumption was like these behaviors signal entry into the sales process. And the changing buyer experience, the changing product space makes those things less true. And what most businesses, I think, and I'm going to go on a limb and think and say that you probably agree, have over relied on these like, oh, here's something we can track and report on, form submits. So we call those leads. And we just let the disqualifications of like junk submissions or whatever, maybe we filter them or whatever, we don't include them in our numbers. Hand raiser is the first stage as we are going through the value path, where the breakdown of trackable experiences really rears its head, which is to say the things that company A versus company B versus company C is going to do to serve hand raisers are going to be drastically different. There are companies who a hand raiser, an appropriate response is to send them to an SDR, for them, the hand raiser person, to say, this seems like it's in the space of what I need. But I don't understand some of the things you're saying. I'm trying to map my needs to this. Like, I think a person could answer this. And if they don't, I'm just going to go ask ChatGPT and it's going to be wrong in it's going to be
It might
probably
be.
measurably more wrong than an SDR, right? Like it doesn't have all of the parameters. As some better, some worse. Company B, like the hand raiser response might be like, hey, you should set up a free account and try it and take our guided tours, would be like what a hand raiser would be. In company A, it might be self assessments. It might be we've got this video experience, like what we've got 3 7-minute videos that explain every aspect of our experience, our product, and what we do. You should watch those, right? Hand raiser is not going to be the same from company to company, and it's not going to be the same within segments of your customers for diversified product companies, especially, right? So, like the key to how do we help hand raisers in 2026 and beyond is you need to realize that raising your hand now is different than it used to be, and that it's not a well. This is a past marketing and is now to sales. No, like you have a whole different set of tools that you are bringing to bear. Some taken from marketing in the past, some taken from sales in the past, some are going to be taken from media and PR. You're going to have a whole bunch of different tools that if you were just to segment them would make it look noisy, right? Like, oh, if somebody requests a demo, that's sales. It's like, well, some people that request demos are buyers. Some people that request demos are hand raisers, right? The key here is like, hey, help me figure this out. And hand raisers are saying that to the world. And if you're lucky, they're saying it to you. So when a hand raiser is going to ask, or maybe has already asked Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity or your competitor or their colleague. And so figuring out the tools to recognize, get in front of, and support those questions that they are raising their hand to ask is a totally different game than how you've treated pumping leads through your pipeline in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. And this prompted me to pull this up on the Value First site, because it's a mindset shift that if you can get to, like, no tool like can do this for you, no like SaaS platform is going to do this for you, and if you can shift the mindset like in this direction, all of a sudden very common sense things like come to the surface. And sharing my screen here of just like that moment of like when they are asking for help, right? They're getting a little more intentional, right? And this is why we have separation between audience researcher, hand raiser, right, and buyer, right? They're now thinking, I think this could work for us, but I need professional help, right? And I think you mentioned all the different ways that they could get that. And for different humans in the exact same role across your audience, it might be the guided demo, it might be watching the video, and for others, it will be a live conversation.
Right.
In order to achieve evaluating it, properly for our specific situation, right? It's really this expert guidance, which now with the inclusion of AI chats, like in a lot of ways, right? And we're seeing this with HubSpot specifically. It's like in a lot of ways, it can be an expert in that thing. But as soon as you show up with your application, right? Like, good luck, but it's going to scratch this itch of collaborative evaluation in a way that they have had to talk to your team before now to get this feeling. And because for how many years have they had to tell us that they don't want sales pitches? And like when the only avenue is like a demo or, a salesperson, like they're coming in like with the walls up, right? In some
Yes.
way. And instead, they really just want support wherever they are in the journey, and this readiness, which when you handle it the right way, and this is where like all this data is coming into HubSpot and all around us, like you mentioned, they're telling the whole world like that they need help, right? When you can see that signal and then show up in the exact way that they need you at that moment,
Yeah.
right? It's never been easier to see that and then put yourself in a position to act in a valuable way. And when you can do that, we know that response times, among other things, is one of the quickest ways to build trust and move a process forward.
Yeah. I mean, the um, I think maybe the best illustration of that scenario is the one of the most unpleasant things to go through, which is being a buyer of enterprise software. I had the opportunity slash misfortune to be kind of the primary technical product and like fit qualifier for a big six-figure software purchase. I don't know, it was a while ago, 6, 7 years ago, and the I was a hand raiser because it was a very weird space that the software operated in. There were not a lot of suppliers, and the business was doing producing something that was kind of atypical. And so we had this the executive team had this need where we had to kind of use that software to service both like internal and external stakeholders. It would take 45 minutes to explain it in any more detail, so I'm going to try to leave it at that, and hopefully that'll be useful. And it's like the all of the standards within which this platform had to operate were designed before there were persistent internet connections, even, right? Like these standards were codified when you had a 56K dial-up modem, and they have not evolved somehow since then. So my hand raising conversation, like I needed a demo because I needed to see the admin experience. I needed to see the end user experience. I needed to ask about internal integrations, external integrations. I had to ask about authoring against this format to bring it in and what that looks like and blah, 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 all of this stuff. And, and that was like pure hand raiser. Like I was like, I need help because there's there's nothing about this. I couldn't ask ChatGPT or Claude, obviously. And it was just so complex, and there were, like I said, there were like 3 companies in the world that do this, and one of them was like roll your own from their components. And so I needed to understand all of that. It wasn't like, hey, I need a demo because I'm trying to build a case internally. I was trying to figure out like, is this even possible, or am I going to have to come back and say we can either spend $250,000 on something that is a really poor fit, or we need to hire 5 engineers to build this piece of software. And the only way I could express that hand raising was to get on a demo with somebody who, had probably had a $10 million quota for the year, and a $250,000 license was like, this isn't really worth my time.
Right.
But I technically have to like address every opportunity within 2 business days. And so, you know, it's
So here's my
Friday
bad questions. All
yeah,
right. You
it's
didn't.
Friday at 4:45.
Right.
I'll get on a call with you real quick and see if I'll even bother scheduling a demo. And that that expert help, right? Like we did go on to buy that piece of software. The but that like, look, I need expert help, and in this case, like fortunately, it did come from that rep, and we collaborated to get that in place, get all the stuff onto it, integrate, etc. The I was unfortunate, I would say, in that scenario, to have no other option, to have no backup, to have nobody else to ask. You know, like I found the top people who work with that weird format, and they were like, "Yeah, you're talking to the only company who's going to be able to help you out. So good luck."
Right.
But you know, like asking for a demo in that scenario was as much me qualifying, am I even in the right place? Am I asking the right questions? Do I even know how to phrase those questions?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and
Sometimes the help is like, I need to know where I'm at, like
yeah,
in the buying journey, right? Like I haven't figured out my problem exactly yet, right? And that's where um, a lot of what we're talking, whenever the content takes us to AI right now, um, I'm getting more comfortable with like with what the value is in these various situations, like and like human domain expertise, right? Is a way that one as a business, like you need to figure out what that is, and that's like a differentiator in a world where we can use AI to solve a lot of problems that we haven't been able to solve before.
right,
And as it relates here, like getting to the point where if you don't on that call, if I'm asking you for help, then we're going to sign up for an hour-long conversation. If you don't have some human domain expertise to bring, it's not going to feel valuable.
right,
And in the cases we've been talking about, like the specific application and how it will apply to me as I'm showing up and talking to you right now, and that includes as we think about these stages, and we'll get into these in more detail moving forward. Like, is it an executive hand raise? Is it a manager hand raise? Is it an individual contributor hand raising? Like, if I'm an executive, and this is all too common, I would imagine, and I'm asking a question and it's just an SDR like responding and just wanting to demo features, right? Like there's a disconnect there.
right,
And I'm not going to feel any value. Like, unless you're a seasoned account manager, that's the one doing the demo that has helped implement it in executive situations and can speak to growth and differentiation and competitive advantage, all that stuff, right? That's the domain expertise I need in that moment,
right, for
right?
sure. Yeah, I mean the that's a great example of, you know, the it's I think the book is called Question Behind the Question. It calls it QBQ. It goes back to like the early '90s, I think, which is, you know, like so many business and sales books. It's like 10 great pages of advice and perspective that they somehow managed to cram into 250 pages. But it's like, yeah, when an executive asks a question in a hand raised context or is on the committee that's on the demo, and they say, "Do you integrate with HubSpot?" Let's say, I'm sure you've heard an executive ask that. The answer, the right answer to that question, the technically accurate answer to that question is, it depends on what you mean by integrate, and here's what our integration strategy is. Because the number of times I've been told, yes, we integrate with HubSpot, and I say, tell me how, and they say, well, we have Zapier.
Yeah.
Is
Oh, we bring the deal information. That's,
right, yeah.
yeah, we're good.
If you're lucky, yeah. The but the one of the important like human domain expertise aspects of hand raiser is recognizing that question behind the question. When an executive says, "Do you integrate with HubSpot?" what are they actually asking, right? Oftentimes they are asking, do I need to scrap or keep my internal system that I asked about because my renewal's in 2 months, right? And so recognizing that, figuring out if you can respectfully probe on that, those are all human domain expertise and skill expertise aspects that make a hand raiser call incredibly valuable to all parties involved, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, every business in the world that has a sales team is trying to figure out how to make that work better.
Right. And
But
they all
it's
inherently do it. Uh,
right
at least
with
the
varying degrees of success, of course, yes,
right.
but
Well, I think like what we're realizing right now is the word context and like
yes,
how we would love to be able to just teach you what that means, right? But there it's like so inherent to the human condition, the way that we use and access context. Like I'm going through this course, the AI course from Celestial team right now, and something that was mentioned this week about the difference, like so a place where AI is not not there yet, right? Is it cannot use the lack of context
mm-hmm.
as context, right? And oftentimes it like it comes back to you don't know what you don't know. And one of the key places for human domain expertise right now is I do know what you don't know and what you're not taking into account. And
Right.
that's what we're going to cover on this call, right?
Yes, yeah, and no, none of our audience watching or listening to this will be able to see this, but the image that I posted to our Slack this week, where Claude told me that based on its experience, it had come to an incorrect conclusion, and I was like, Claude, you better watch it with this based on my experience stuff because you do not have experience in the thing that I was asking about. Um, that's a great example of that you gave of like the the AI. If a hand raiser, like to drill down, if I had maybe this abstract example I gave, if I had access to ChatGPT or Claude, like I'm trying to solve a problem in a domain that I know something about right now, that where my knowledge is not exactly up to date, and I'm just looking for somebody to toss some ideas against. And if I'd had that experience with this software situation, I would be able to, I, having my context, I'd be able to say like, okay, I need to think about this, I need to think about that, right, and give it all of this information. But when I don't know how to ask the question about these crazy formats and read the specs, which are it's an RFC, it's like 4,500 pages, like not useful. Then even it would struggle to help unless I could provide all that context. It wouldn't know, right? And the human experience that comes from that, and the context of the rep seeing successful cases with the business is super important. But the other side of that for businesses looking to serve hand raisers who had been in, if your prospects had been in the scenario that I was in, right? If you get prospects who come into your circle, into your value path, that are like, I think this is for me, but I don't understand this or that, and most people who buy this have somebody to help them with X, and I don't, and whatever, right? Like these non-simplistic transactional processes, they are going to turn to AI tools that have this problem if they don't know what they don't know. But the one of the challenges with people in that situation having tools that don't have a high degree of AI literacy is, I don't know if you've had this experience, I have, of a stakeholder saying, asking me a question and me giving them an answer and them saying, well, that's not what ChatGPT says.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, I've done this 45 times. ChatGPT has done it 0. And I know that you have a 2-year accumulated history of memories and prompts and whatever, and ChatGPT responding to you however. So why don't you call up that chat right now and ask it, are you sure? And let's see what it says. And it's like, oh, you're right, that's not, and blah, blah, blah.
You're absolutely right.
Right. And even that could be wrong, right? Like it's, I think there's still a like type 2 error. I periodically ask Claude, are you sure? And it's like, oh, you're right. That's not correct. And I'm just testing it because it was pretty much correct, and just to kind of see how it responds. And so like if your hand raisers are going to be getting inaccurate information out of AI and trusting it, you need an even stronger hand raiser experience to be able to come with the perspective, the authority, the experience, and be able to overcome the bias of, well, AI is artificially intelligent. So, Rodney Brooks's first law of AI, when they see an AI do something that seems good, people immediately assume it's that good at everything else. So you really got to be on the ball with your hand raiser stage of somebody who's gotten misinformation or incomplete information or misguided information from AI, just like they might have from a colleague in the past or their own misunderstanding, and be more prepared to serve them when they go ahead and raise their hand.
Yeah. I'd love to set up a part 2 here, because there are so many tools that you can use
Yeah.
to help with this part. And I think that's part of the meat of your framework is like implementing these tools so that it can be very easy to remove all of the cloudiness around like who they are, what do they want, where are they at in the journey. And I'll be interested, and as we think about next week, like how I haven't thought about this. Like I was ready to come and talk about self-service tools today, like ROI calculators and all these things that could be on your website to help with this. I hadn't really thought about it in the context of this AI conversation, where what are we doing to preempt that part of the conversation where it's, well, AI said this, right? Because we're seeing that all over LinkedIn for sure. But I was going to pull up my AI native page that talks about this training data problem, right?
Yep. That's a big one.
That just all the biases of the humans around you, that's what's in the tool. So if you're not good at asking, are you sure? It's just going to feed that. But even there, I'm seeing it. I'm like, yeah, it's not there yet in terms of like, it's just highlighting this issue. It's not really talking about how we can help. So if you're up for that, I would love to have a part 2 next week where we can dig deep into these tools that people could be using to help with this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we are well teed up for a part 2 through 10 on every single one of these stages. We need to get to it eventually.
Yeah. And I want to dig deeper on this one, just because it is if you've done the work to get, like, if you've done what you're supposed to do to get somebody in this noisy world to take an action to say, I need help, and I'm telling you, right? Like, be ready. We want you to be ready, like, for that. And it's not just coming in and like, oh, okay, we're going to have a discovery call, right? Like, that can't be it anymore. They might have already done that with GPT at this point.
Right.
and now you're having to unravel, or like you basically doing discovery with AI, like maybe at that point, like,
Right. Yeah.
right,
Yeah. And probably doing it with AI on your side, but they are also doing this dark AI discovery on their own, separately from anything that they're doing with you. Yeah.
right,
I mean, I would say, yeah, I'd love to drill down and like talk more about the tools that are at our disposal. Just a little bit of a preview of like, we talked about a couple of them, but we can't just feed them into a discovery call or a qualifying call, I would say, alone. Like what we have here is we need to recognize that the tools for this stage, and I think this stage is going to get drawn out more as in the way that people make these decision changes. The good news is we already have and understand a lot of the tools. We just need to use them the right way for the way that people do this now. So we can talk about some of those tools next week.
yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to that. This has been a fun one, as always. Uh, so until next time,
See you soon.
everybody have a great day.